welcome everyone. In front of me, iPad 9 and the iPad 10. Now you're wondering which one should you buy, and there is a marketplace for both, and I'm going to discuss. So first of all, the displays. They both have a non-laminated display, but the iPad 10th generation hides it way better. So if I'm looking at an iPad 9th gen, I can tell from this angle that there is a gap between the display and the actual glass itself. On iPad Gen 10, I can't tell right here, which is crazy. You can only tell if you're like placing the iPad like this, okay, which you're not going to do. Like I'm literally, like my eyes like looking right down there. So the display definitely better compared to the 9th generation. Of course, you have the more sleek design with the even bezels. But at the end of the day, I think when it comes to an iPad, you use what you got. The touch works at the end of the day. Definitely looks better on iPad 10th generation, but not a deal breaker on the iPad 9th generation. On top of this, we do have a no home button on the 10th gen iPads compared to home button. Both do have Touch ID, no Face ID available. Touch ID, Face ID, it is whatever. With the power button, this is the Touch ID sensor. So if it's going to unlock, you can see, boom, like this. And honestly, I'm indifferent about these two. I really am. It is what it is. At the end of the day, on the iPad 9th generation, you get the same gestures as the 10th gen, okay? You can see, boom, right, boom. So if you're not a big fan of the home button, you just want to use it for the fingerprint sensor, you can. When I was using the Air 2, which looks just like this, ever since iOS 11 dropped, a long time ago, I personally just used, an iPad as, the touchscreen with the home button, and I gestured away. I think you want to learn the gestures. I'll have to turn out to use the gestures in the description. Very important you learn those regardless of which device you buy. Now, when it does come to the processor, we do have A14 here compared to the A13. Now, being honest, A13 is perfectly fine. If you look at the iPhone range, it's like the iPhone 10 and the 10s, they're starting to get sluggish. But in the iPhone 11 series, perfectly fine. This has the same processor as the iPhone 11 series. So you are good to go for now. But I don't know how much longer you're going to have. Looking at things bluntly, you're going to get a ton of support, okay? So right now, the iPad 5th generation is still supported. So you're probably going to get maybe 4 to 5 years of extra support, which is decent. Don't get me wrong. But when it does come to the iPad 10th generation, you have the A14, which is definitely an improvement. It's not a crazy improvement. It's on the iPhone 12 series, so you're only really going to get an extra year of support. I could see maybe 2 if Apple, little cheeky buggers. But, you don't really need to worry about support with these iPads, even if they stop being supported. The current apps will work for a very long time. So great, decent, whatever. Now, with the cameras, if I open up the cameras here, the camera sensor is at the top on iPad Gen 9 compared to the landscape area. And the reason why this is important is because for the most part, your iPad's in landscape mode. And you can see front facing, boom. And this is compared to, I switch the cameras, you can see my face is on the side like this. Like I'm literally looking here. I'm looking at my iPad and it's on the side. Now, being brutally honest, it's not the end of the world. I do use an iPad Pro M1, which still has the camera on the side. But it definitely is, important to note what you are getting between these two iPads. If you think about upgrading, that is definitely an advantage there. Now, the rear cameras, take a look at this. You do have this very old camera. I think they used this in the iPhone 6. I mean, bad. But at the end of the day, you're using the rear camera for like scanning documents, and it gets the job done, and it gets the job done just fine. Now, with the iPad 10th generation, we do get the camera in the iPhone 10R, which is, okay, whatever. It's better, of course. You may think that's a flash. That's not flash. There is still no flash on both iPads. But being blunt, Apple don't put a flash on because I just haven't used a flash, right? With my iPad Pro M1, I don't think I've activated the flash once. I actually haven't. That's crazy to think. So you're not going to need a flash unless you're like, there is no reason. you need a flash. That's not really something you need to worry about at all. What you may want to worry about is the ports. So iPad 10th generation has USB-C. Now this isn't the the max speed USB-C. This is not the Thunderbolt. So you're putting it like 5 gigabit per second, which is decent. Data transfer speeds if you do care about the external storage. Of course, USB-C. I mean, you can output to a monitor at a high resolution, 4K 30 compared to 1080p on the iPad Gen 9. So that is cool, but big but. So first of all, no stage manager. No stage manager to an external monitor, obviously, because you don't have regular stage manager. You don't get that feature on this iPad either. But the fact you don't get it on this iPad kind of sucks, because that means you're not going to get the same multitasking experience as an Air or a Pro iPad. Now, on top of this one, the USB-C means that there are some more issues. So Apple Pencil 1 is supported on both iPads, okay? And because the iPad 9th Gen has the Lightning port, you can just connect the Apple Pencil to the Lightning port to charge it, and of course to connect. Now with the iPad 10th generation, you need an adapter, okay? You need a USB-C to Lightning in. It's some crazy, you have to use some crazy adapter just to connect your Apple Pencil. And it's a £10 adapter, which only Apple sells. How convenient. And yeah, that kind of sucks. I mean, you could say the reason why there's no Apple Pencil 2 support is because they placed the camera at the top here, so you can't have the wireless charging strip there. And okay, fair point, but they could have just moved the camera to the side and added the support. It's really weird that they would add the first gen Apple Pencil, which released in 2015. They're still supporting it to this day. The Pencil 2 is definitely way better, and that's the facts. And as far as accessories go, you can get some keyboard folio cases, you can get some regular stands for the iPad 9th generation. With the iPad 10th generation, you get a full keyboard case by Apple. There is also a back stand you can use. I have used this case. I would, honestly, if you think about this case, you probably don't even want to buy this 10th gen iPad. Get like an older Pro or an Air 4. But this case, honestly, the keyboard is really good, but the stand just doesn't have enough viewing angles. I was kind of disappointed by that, actually. I thought they would do a little bit of a better job there. So I personally do think, if you do care about, cases, etc., you're probably just going to be using either some rugged case without a keyboard, or, some regular stand case. I think that's what most people use. And, you're going to have no issues on each. With that one, of course, because, they're all supported. iPad 9th generation has had the same design as the iPad 5th generation from 2016, 17, so nothing really to worry about when it comes to the case support. Now the storage, so they all come in the same storage configurations, 64, 256 gig. 64 gig, if you're wondering, it is usable, but your iPad can't be your main device. So what that means is, if you want to, have a bunch of photos and videos, maybe for like, work, you need some videos, you need to put in like some video editing suite like LumaFusion, then that's where the issues begin. So for some context, for some file sizes, Call of Duty Mobile, which is a video game, takes up 10 to 20 gig, and you start off with 40 gig on both, 49 gig on both, because of course the operating system takes up a lot of storage. So you're almost you're already a third of your storage gone, right? And then you start downloading other apps, like your MISC applications, I would say would take up 5 to 10 gig. Depending on what you use. If you plan on downloading Netflix shows or YouTube videos, with YouTube Premium or Netflix, then you're probably looking at, with Netflix, like 5 to 10 gig per show. With YouTube, you're looking at maybe like 1 to 10 gig per video. And so things start to add up very quickly, okay? So 64 gig, if you are able to manage storage, if you're able to use the bare minimum, if you're able to remove apps which you are not using frequently, if you're able to manage your photos, etc., you're going to be able to get away with it. But do keep that one in mind. I used to get away with it, but that was back in 2015, where all the file sizes were lower. I'm not sure 64 gig is even worth it, but if you are wondering, then there you go. So which one should you really buy out of iPad 9 or 10? Honestly, I wouldn't buy either, but if you had to buy one, I would honestly say, iPad 9. And the reason why is because, yes, you do have this better looking design, But if you are planning on spending more money on an iPad, I just wouldn't buy this, okay? If you want to buy new, okay, I guess you can buy this guy. But if you want to save yourself some money, if you go on eBay, and people say, oh, eBay's a scam, eBay is money back guarantee, okay? So if they try and scam you, 14-day money back guarantee, you can return for any reason. So if you went on eBay, you could get an iPad Air 4 for cheaper than this. Air 4 has laminated display, which again doesn't really matter, but it's gonna have Apple Pencil 2 support, Magic Keyboard support. It's a better overall package compared to the iPad 10th generation here. On top of that, you could look for an old iPad Pro. iPad Pro 2018 has a faster processor than the A13, it's slightly slower than the A14. It is extremely good to this day. You get 120 Hz, which means like really smooth refresh rate. That doesn't matter. Like, that's not really a big deal unless you're like doing mobile gaming at high refresh rate. Okay, but just keep that one in mind. You have Apple Pencil 2. You have less bezel, which again doesn't really matter, but this exists. You get the Face ID, and of course you get a more premium package. And it still holds up to this day. It still has all of the latest iPadOS 16 features, and it's still, available. It's still going to get a lot of software update support. Again, we're talking about A9 still being supported, and that has A12X. So you can have so much support, right? You can have so much support, and yeah, and it's going to be cheaper than this. And that's where the issue rises. If you just want a base level iPad, Gen 9 is still really good. You still get it from Apple. The Gen 10, it's just like, Apple's released so many other better iPads that the fact that they raised the price on this was a mistake. They should have put this at the price of the Gen 9 iPad, called it a day. The fact that they've done this, I'm sorry, unless you must buy used, then it's either iPad 9th generation or an older iPad Pro in good condition, of course, or an iPad Air 4 used, which would be literally the same as this, but cheaper. So with that being said, let me know your thoughts. Which one are you buying? Bye bye.